Hey, Maria. This is my friend David. Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah. So David and I actually knew each other from undergrad. He's in DC here as well. So do you want to tell everyone and my sister, mainly my sister, like how we met because nobody else watches these videos?
No, it's just us.
Yeah.
Now 3 people will watch these videos. So Frank and I met. So when did we officially meet? Because I almost feel like we didn't actually meet in person until the round table, but we knew of each other and had talked prior to that.
No, I think I met you because I came to St. Pete for a campus tour when we did the Judicial Summit. And I met you briefly, but like we didn't really talk. Like it was kind of like you were in presidential mode.
Yeah.
And, I knew some people from that campus, so like, and I think you might have came to USF once. And, like, we met in the back office. I remember meeting you. It was, like, you and a bunch of other people.
This is when Milton was...
Yep. So, like, you came in the back office, and I met you and a bunch of other people from the St. Pete delegation.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were both in student government. David went to USF St. Pete. I was in USF Tampa. But, like, there's a lot of crossover,
yes,
I guess. Yeah.
So, basically, we never actually... Or we, like, had limited interactions as people. But, like, because we were in the same circle, we knew of each other. And then when Frank ran for state senate, one of my good friends also was also in student government, was running for a state house seat in Polk County. And so kind of there was like this mini group chat of all the young people running in the state of Florida. And one guy in Montana who was the only one who won.
Who won?
the only one who won. And so, yeah. Okay, so... There was a roundtable that Congressman Chris was doing on campus safety. So, Frank, you were what's the exact title you had for your fraternity?
I was the Sergeant at Arms, a.k.a. the risk manager for my fraternity. So, basically, we're in charge of, like, insurance and anything goes bad. It's my responsibility to deal with it. I have communication with the chapter president and our nationals. And I'm basically the rule enforcer.
Yes.
So, or was the rule enforcer, not anymore.
So there were a few students, Frank, someone else, and then myself. So I was student body president at that time. And the 3 of us were on the panel along with these other people, kind of talking to the congressman about campus safety. So this is in August of 2017.
Yeah, so this is after I ran. I was August of 17. Would have been right after I finished Higgins' campaign and right when I started working as a substitute and studying for the GRE. So you were in Congressman Chris' office in Tampa or in St. Pete at that time, or were you actually up here already?
No,
when you had the round table. Yeah.
No, I was still a student.
Oh, you were still a student.
That was that fall semester of my term.
Yeah.
Fast forward.
I forget, he's really young. So, like, I forget this all the time because he acts so mature. Like, he's way younger than us. So,
You're not that old, Frank.
I'm not that old, but, like, in terms of, like, I don't know, just I forget that, like, because when I think student body president, like, all the student body presidents were always, like, a lot. At Tampa, they were always older, like, they're seniors. And you were, like, one of the youngest student body presidents ever, I think.
I was...
Or the youngest student body president?
19 or 20 when I got elected? Now I can't remember.
You were definitely 19 because you just turned 21.
There's
no way.
No, yes. Yeah, I'm trying to, like, get the... Yes, I was 19 when I got elected. So, yeah, to Frank's point. But after that roundtable that we were both on, fast forward to, I guess, about April of 2018, and so in this time gap, basically, I'd been interacting with the congressman's office for a couple of different things. Obviously, he was the representative of the district, so we interacted from time to time. And then April of 2018, there was a job opening in his office. I applied and then got the job, which then brought me to D.C., and I came up here in May. And then, Frank, you came up here in August, technically.
I came up here in August, but I first came up in July. For places to live. So, like, I knew you were up here. I knew some other people that were up here. And then we started, like, you were, like, one of the first people that came over to my lovely apartment. It's very tiny. And then...
It's cozy.
Yeah, it's cozy. It's not tiny. And then we've been hanging out ever since. And then we have a mutual friend, Randy.
Mhm.
How did you meet Randy? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Randy, who's our mutual friend, who we all saw when you came up to look for apartments. We did a class called Road to the White House together, which is our professor at USF St. Pete takes students up to New Hampshire to work on the presidential primary campaigns. So we were both up there, and then kind of just clicked and stayed friends. She was one of those people who also temporarily flirted with running for State House. She ended up working on the Hillary campaign instead. But then now she's also back in DC, so we got a little bull squad going on up here.
It's nice. We have like all these people that were like Florida politicos, I mean, DC is a small place for people in politics, so I feel like mostly people, especially from the state that you're from, know the other people. Even if it's the opposite party, like, you know mostly everyone that works, especially around the same age group, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of kids who can afford to work on the Hill or be up here that are young, because generally those jobs aren't... I mean, Congress is notorious for not paying well compared to the private sector, so it's just hard, especially, like, David's not in grad school, but I'm sure he'll go eventually. But, like, it's just really hard.
My parents have anything to say.
Yeah, it's really hard because, like, I've tried to stay away from Congress just because, like, I know, number one, it's really demanding. Like the time schedule. I mean, you're working for a United States congressman. Like, they're gonna, if they want you to do something, you correct me if I'm wrong. They want, like, you're gonna do it. So, like, I just knew that I needed a job that was a little bit more flexible, at least in the meantime. So, yeah. That's how we met. You're in Congress right now. I'm currently still unemployed, but I'm sure I'll find something eventually. I'm just trying to stay on top of my classes because econometrics is horrible. But yeah.
So let's first go back to his point about working for Congress. So there's 539 technically. Congress, you can think of it as 539 small businesses when you add up the Senate,
that makes sense.
The House, and the delegates. And each one of them gets to run their office as they choose. So part of the reason I'm able to make this video right now is because there's a snow day tomorrow, so I can hang out.
Yep.
I don't have to get up early to go to work. But one of my good friends, his office is actually open tomorrow.
God.
And that is one of those things that, like, it's literally like a small business. It's up to you.
Is this representative, like, from Alaska or something? They don't
No, it's not. I'm not going to say which office.
Yeah, don't throw them under the bus.
Not to throw them under the bus, but they do have to work.
Yeah.
But it is, like, absolutely one of the best offices to work for. Like, just as far as the culture from the top down. And that starts with the congressman of just, like, being... really caring about his employees, the people that work for him, caring about the district. Like, his For the People brand is not a joke. Like, that's genuinely how he feels.
So what was your biggest, like, kind of eye-opener? Like, something you didn't know before you started working and came to DC, you're like, wow, that's, like, a lot different than I perceived it, like, when I was back at home.
I would say it is almost like the structure of committees. So... there are so as far as the budget process is,
this is getting really technical, very technical. Budget process can be like, okay, I'm gonna get this because I know what you're talking about, but everybody else eyes are gonna gloss over.
We're gonna see. So I always say you don't understand something until you can explain it to a fifth grader.
There you go.
So we'll see if I understand it.
All right.
Essentially, you have the Appropriations Committee, which. They don't authorize. Nope. They dole out the money for these things. But you also have authorizing committees.
Appropriate it. Like,
yes.
They decide where it goes.
There's also a budget committee, and that's another mess.
Nope.
But essentially
you
have committees that authorize these projects to go forward that can potentially get funding, or, and the appropriations decides how much funding any of these programs is going to get. And I think the relationship between the authorizers and the appropriators is something that's very interesting.
It's very political. It's very seniority-based, at least from my understanding. Like,
I mean, seniority, but just like, so... not the actual relationship is what's kind of crazy to me, but like where you fall in that relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So just as somebody who my personality is just like always like boom, 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 let's go, like find something. Like I might like just be like, hey guys, what if we like did this? And it's like, okay, we are on these committees, and so we have jurisdiction over these things. And like, yes, anybody can file legislation on anything, but you kind of have priorities as an office, and
Yep.
other offices
Yep.
have priorities, and so with the government being so large, it's really hard to take on any given project that's not like something that you are focused on. And there's so much planning that goes in at the front end. It's really interesting to just kind of like, okay, like you have to stay focused. And that's something that like I've been learning a lot, is like staying focused on like what we set out to do. Obviously those things you can't control,
Yep.
but like really focusing on what we're doing long term.
Is there's people in politics who are really good at like rah-rah cheerleading, and like they're really good at bringing out the base, and they're really good at like politics per se, like so like getting
Retail
people
politics,
yeah like
rallies.
making sure people like get energized, are engaged with like the issues. People who are great at social media, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Sanders, for instance. But then there's the policy wonks, like the people who are like the nerds, like that aren't necessarily great in front of a camera because they get into the weeds like we do, and they don't know how to summarize their points and explain it to a fifth grader because like they know everything, so it's hard for them to just summarize it because they're like, oh, but I also forgot about this point.
Right.
So like you can see that if you're a Politico or anyone that just has political knowledge, when you're in these committees or just talking to someone on the Hill, like you can kind of tell like who are the rah-rah cheerleaders for both sides and who are the people that actually know like the standpoints. And it's interesting to me, though, too, especially with what I was involved in last semester, how really the Republican congressmen and women know that basically having a federal balanced budget is really a talking point for their base, because the conservatives and the neoclassical like economic body, that's like a really big thing for them because a lot of states run that way. But like Senator Bennett was like, I know I've talked to you like a lot of you one-on-one in your office, and like you understand the difference between like a GDP to debt ratio, and like how that's more important than having a balanced budget. And it's more about that ratio, at least on a federal level, because at a state level it can be different, especially when you're talking about small states that don't have the ability to get lenders and things like that, or states like Florida who have a constitutional amendment where they have to balance the budget. So it's just interesting to see, like, because all these senators make these points that are just talking points, like basically to put in sound bites for when they run for office. Like they said it in committee, they can use it, but like at the end of the day, like they're actually working behind the scenes to get things done. So it's interesting to see like that kind of like meat pie, like kitchen mentality of like, okay, we're going to throw all these ideas together and like how do we make it work. And that's why I love politics and eventually want to get back into it. But unless I'm the person in the kitchen, it'd be very hard for me to be like, here's the carrot, do what you will. Like it's very hard because I have a lot of very strong opinions on politics. So like being on the periphery or the outside, unless you're doing like, I really enjoyed my last job because we had an all or nothing process. So like, if you're from you might have to Google this, people that are watching this video, but like if you're from CAP, or I know you'll get this, but like people from CAP or like Americans for Prosperity, if they're on a roundtable and they say no, it's like 14 out of 15 doesn't make it. Like that initiative won't make it. So it's like it's very hard to get people at Convergence to actually. The final proposals are pretty down the middle because you have people on the far right, the far left, and everywhere in between. They all have to agree on it in order to get it in our proposal. So
very interesting.
It was really disheartening, again, to see like it die because of political reasons. And again, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but like it was because basically they pushed the committee. The original date was before the election, but they knew that a lot of the Democrats knew that because midterms were coming up, that the political winds were changing and minority and majority leadership were going to change. So it was like, we can get more of what we want, so we're not going to actually. It was the Democrats that killed the bill. So it was like, yeah, like we're both like, so it's like, like we want to get it done, but at the same time, it's like, that's how politics works. It's like when you know something's a certainty like that, you're going to play to your advantages because politics is an all or nothing game. So,
but it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, but that's just how it's become at least in my opinion.
We should say
has a-
politics is an all or nothing game.
Yeah.
Government is
Government
not.
is not. Government is
Yeah.
not. Which is why it's disheartening when government doesn't work, because like that's why I was really excited, because I'm like, oh, we got this really good bipartisan group together, and then it was like, nope, we're gonna just stick to our partisan guns. But like, what is it? The Gang of Eight, like, and the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus kind of set the precedent. So I don't throw all the blame on the Democrats. They set the precedent years ago under the Obama administration for kind of like this tit for tat kind of strategy. So that's something that's new and different in politics and historian. That's a whole other conversation. We'll go. I'll have him back on at some point.
We'll follow up.
Yeah, we'll follow up. But well, thank you for being on my first guest on our YouTube channel, at least on my end. So hopefully he'll be back on again soon.